Hey, it's Dan, and welcome back to Unified Gaming. Now today guys, we're going to take a deep dive and look at everything we know about the Dark Heart of Skyrim. It's finally coming, following that reveal event early this week in Las Vegas. Now there's a lot to unpack, so I've added timestamps and we'll be covering the chapter, changes to PvP and PvE, and we'll just discuss everything we know about the new systems, so it's well worth watching the entire video so you're up to date, and besides it will save you watching the 2-hour reveal event. And if you want to see more from us, then remember to subscribe. Now if you are unaware, or you've just been living under a rock for the past month or so, the Dark Heart of Skyrim is an upcoming expansion for the Elder Scrolls Online. It's set 1000 years before the Elder Scrolls 5, Skyrim, and we'll be going back there once more, so we'll see familiar places, but also familiar characters from the Elder Scrolls Online, like Lyris. Now the chapter is set to release in Q2 of the year. Based on last year, we would expect that to be around the end of May, maybe early June, and with Elsewhere, they're doing the same kind of approach, a year-long story set over the 4 DLCs. There'll be 2 dungeon DLCs, the chapter itself, and a story-driven DLC, but they plan to make this bigger, better, with deeper storytelling throughout all of the DLCs, so that first DLC will be really interesting hopefully. So you're probably going, what's different? What can I expect from this chapter? Well, what we know so far is that the chapter is set in Skyrim, but it's going to centre on the western side of the province and so on. So all the things like the Rift and Eastmarch I can say exactly the same because they're already in game. And as such, the playable space will look small on the map and it will be a bit but actually in reality it's set to be massive, absolutely huge, with a massive expanded Blackreach underground area for you to explore with. They're going to have all the familiar places we know and new places as well as new biomes under there, so it'll be really interesting. And then the overland, so the place on top, will have familiar landmarks like Solitude, Markarth, Labyrinthium, and they're all going to be set 1000 years before the Elder Scrolls 5. Because it's so far apart, they're going to tell their own stories and add their own lore whilst being sensitive. So it's going to be really interesting finding new things out. And what's more, this area is set to be the central part of the story, and if you haven't guessed already, it's vampire themed. And from what we can tell is that the Jarl of Skyrim has not joined the Ebonheart Pact, and instead it's an independent province, and so looks unfavourably upon the rest of the Pact, especially the Reach. Now within his own kingdom there's vampires, werewolves and witches all running rampant, causing all sorts of trouble for the people there. And the people of Skyrim, they are aware of this, and they're aware of the rumours of their vast underground cave network. But little do they know that it's actually home to a vampire lord, and what appears to be an entire vampire city. The story will unfold with Lyris by your side, and it's said to be very gothic in nature, being described as very similar to Rivenspire in that vibe of sort of darkness and corruption, just vampireness. And if you haven't played Rivenspire yet, the storyline is just fantastic, so do check that out. And like with all DLCs and so on, there's actually also a trial as well, and it has 3 difficulty modes, and it's set to be a similar size to Sunspire, so for those endgame players you've got something to look forward to. Now with such a strong theme, it's only right that they're going to revamp the entire vampire system skill and all their abilities, passives, and they're also going to add that long requested feature, the Vampire Lord transformation, of which you can do as a player. So I just imagine being able to walk across sort of Cyrodiil or just Tamriel, just become some badass slaying machine. It's going to be absolutely great. But beyond the vampire form and all the new abilities that they're going to add and revamp and morph and so on, they're also adjusted how vampires function. Now before in ESO you've had to just really starve to get power and to actually be really strong. You're really a vampire and that you have to actually give in to your carnal instincts. So you have to feed to satisfy your hunger, and by doing so you can truly utilise your vampiric gifts. This means that the feeding system's been completely redesigned, and there's new animations and it's all lore friendly. One of the animations described by Rich is where you jump on top of the target and you ravage the neck with all the blood and gore and everything you'd expect was pouring out the sides. It sounds absolutely gruesome. But alongside that you also have the justice system tied in now. So if you do anything overtly vampiric in behaviour or action, they go, oh, that's actually not what we'd expect, then you'll be brought to justice, so you have been warned. Now beyond the vampire themed story and locations and all that good stuff, there's also a new game mechanics. There's a game mechanic called Antiquities, which sounds very similar to the Sigic Order minigame where you have to explore all of Tamriel. Now this feature will be added to all existing regions and will be maintained through new ones. The premise is that you'll join an organisation who wishes to discover the secrets of the past, and by doing so you will unlock 2 new skill lines. These will then help you to locate and find antiquities, of which are relics of the past, and there's 2 minigames for you to do. One's a puzzle based one where you need to find and match pieces together by shape and size in order to locate where things are, and there's also an excavation type one where you would obviously have to dig up the thing. These games, like with all of the minigames, can be mastered, and if you do so, you do get better stuff, but the skill level that you actually need for it is really low, so don't panic. Now you're probably thinking though, what do I get if I do this? This sounds like a lot of work, especially if you do PvP like myself. Well, by doing this you can get some unique furniture, which is awesome, but the mount just looks absolutely phenomenal. It's a picture on screen, it's just, that looks crazy. I definitely want that. As for PvP, you can get a siege weapon. They haven't said what it is, and the most exciting thing though are the mythic items. These are one-piece sets that just have unique functions and abilities, and they're designed to cater for all playstyles. They listed a few of them, but one example is that it gives you a movement speed buff whilst in combat, but when you're out of combat it doubles. So if you're somebody who farms or just explores a lot, this is absolutely brilliant for you. So it means that PvP people can get some really cool stuff for PvP as well as PvE guys. And what's more, all of the stuff that you get from doing this is gold level. It's 160 CP and it's gold, so you don't even have to upgrade it. Now there's one caveat though, you're only allowed to wear one of them at a time. So all of those theory crafters out there like myself, you better get researching and decide on which will be best for your playstyle, as I can imagine there'll be very strong sets for both PvP and PvE alike. Now if you are here so far, then why not leave a like? It will really help the video a lot more than you realise, and why not subscribe to see more from us? Now the final thing they did reveal is the overview for the year, and they also touched upon performance. Now they've done some behind the hood wizardry to try and improve the performance, and the biggest one they've done is being able to reduce the size of the game by 30 gigabytes. 30 gigabytes, that's absolutely huge. But what this means is that the game should load faster on all platforms, there should be less lockups and freezes, and overall there should be an improvement in FPS in all zones, including Cyrodiil finally. Now if this works as intended, this could be a real game changer and could really help revitalise the PvP scene, which I would love. The downside is that if you die, you can't say you died to lag if it does get fixed. There is a kicker as well though, that in order for this to work properly, you will need to re-download the entire game. Now they've promised that the future patches will be significantly smaller as a result of this, and it's a one-time thing. And to kind of sort of give us some compensation, there is a pet that you can get for doing so. But if it fixes the performance, it's well worth re-downloading it. So you're probably asking yourself, well, what's coming in the first part of the year, because that's the most recent? Well, we have a dungeon DLC, and that's the prologue quest, and you'll have to uncover what is afoot and why strange happenings are happening all over Skyrim now. You would have to travel to the Sea of Ghosts and other places to uncover new things, and there'll be quests to face, items to get, and all that good stuff. But thankfully we don't have to wait too long for this. It's due to hit the PTS next week. I imagine it will come on PTS Live about Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, and you would have the patch notes maybe Monday or Tuesday depending on delays and so on. So if you want to see my breakdown of the patch notes, where I look at it from a PvP perspective mainly, but also touch upon PvE, and then just more PTS related build videos and things that they change and so on, then obviously subscribe. And with that said guys, I am going to call the video here because that's pretty much all we know so far about the chapter and so on. I'd like to give a big shout out to Captain TJ, who is our sole patron at the moment, and if you want to join him and help the channel, then there's a link in the description. With that said guys, I'll catch you in the next one, so thanks for watching, take care, and bye!